But this morning there is controversy. Astros player Yuli Gurriel under fire for what appears to be a racist gesture after hitting a home run on Dodgers pitcher Yu Darvish of Japan.
Darlene Hyder says she and her family were on a Delta flight from Florida to Detroit Monday when a fellow passenger mocked her religious headscarf, yelling, "This is America."
Looking back at the situation, I don't think I would have done anything differently. Unfortunately, we're going to have to deal with racism and people who are just ignorant.
Shannon, the founder of the nonprofit, called 911 and started rolling. And we do want to warn you, what his camera captured is offensive.
I'll do more for your Mexican kids. I'll send them back to Mexico.
Vulgar,
Back to Mexico.
racist, and hurtful.
See, he just has a problem with his sexuality.
That's 39-year-old transient Robert Arnold, who's now behind bars, yelling at a group of 10 and 12-year-olds.
Once I got my hands up, they're not going to shoot me. This is what I'm thinking. They're not going to shoot me. Wow, was I wrong?
Charles Kinsley now recovering in a Florida hospital after he was shot by police. It's this cell phone video making the rounds that has many questioning North Miami police tactics. Watch as Kinsley laid on the ground with his hands high up in the air. Kinsey, who's a behavioral therapist, says he was trying to help a man with autism who was sitting next to him go back to the group home he wandered from.
When Hamid Kargaran first heard about President Trump's executive order on travel restrictions, he didn't want to believe it.
I remember that I was driving back from work. I was like, that's impossible. That's not going to happen. They are permanent residents. By definition, they're permanent residents. So how is that even possible?
Hamid is one of dozens of Bay Area residents waiting for family members to return from one of the 7 countries on the list for temporary travel bans. His wife was visiting family in Iran this month. She has a green card, but when Hamid heard the news, he told her to book the first flight home.
Good evening and thanks for joining us. At least one person is dead and several are injured tonight after protests and counter-protests turned violent in Charlottesville, Virginia. Virginia Governor Terry McAuliffe declared a state of emergency. Hundreds of white nationalists and alt-right activists clashed in the streets with counter-protesters and police.
Colleen, Mike, the Medina family says they did everything right at this BMV here. A 16-year-old U.S. citizen and her father, a legal resident, says they were turned away after trying to get an ID despite having all the proper documents.
I just needed an ID for a competition I will be in.
Bruins, Trojans, and community members gathered in response to the recent mailing of this flyer to Asian American student groups on both campuses. We can't show you the offensive language or images, but it targets various groups, especially Asian American women.
Misogynist, racist, violent. It pits people of color against each other.
It was very disturbing. Not only did it upset people, but also bring a lot of fear, a lot of concern.
This video of 7th graders chanting "Build a Wall" catapulted Royal Oaks Middle School into the national spotlight.
We begin tonight with that chilling piece of video live streamed on Facebook in the moments after a man is shot by police. His girlfriend in the car pulling out her phone and then capturing the moments right after. Her exchange with the police officer. Now seen by millions across this country. The pictures coming in now here in New York City of protesters gathering near Union Square. And just a short time ago, the governor of Minnesota asking, would this have happened if those passengers were white? He said, I don't think so.
The example that you used in Ghost in the Shell, that Ghost in the Shell is an anime from Japan. The character's name is Motoko Kusanagi. When that anime is adapted for, Western audiences, they cast a white woman, Scarlett Johansson, to play that role.
Meanwhile, a Virginia waitress is getting support from around the world after she received a check with the words, "We only tip citizens," written upon.
Even before the election, hate crimes against Muslims were on the rise, nearly 70% in 2015, according to the FBI. And here in New York, the police department says 2016 is shaping up to be even worse. Security cameras caught the shooting of a local imam and his assistant in cold blood this past summer, while reports of hate speech like this are on the rise.
You and your family, you terrorists.
The video shows a Cobb County, Georgia police officer talking to a woman in a car he pulled over on a traffic stop. She's unwilling to move her hands, afraid, she says, of getting shot, and he tells her, don't worry.
But you're not black.
Remember, we only kill black people. Yeah, we only kill black people, right?
Watch that N-word, man. I'll punch you down in your seat. Punch you down.
Is American and Iran relation affected already? But we are people, we are not the government. We are not doing nothing. If the government does something wrong with this government, we are not responsible, American and Iranian. What they can do.
So what's going on with you?
When Jacqueline Craig called the Fort Worth police to report her neighbor choked her 8-year-old son after catching him littering, she got this response from arriving officer William Martin.
Well, why don't you teach your son not to litter?
It doesn't matter if he did or didn't. It doesn't give him the right to put his hands on it.
Why not?
Because he don't. It don't. What you mean?
Why are you yelling at me?
Because you just pissed me off telling me what I teach my kids and what I don't.
If you keep yelling at me, you're going to piss me off and I'm going to take you to jail.